So let's have a brief lesson on this piece. You can watch the video for free and grab some tips. I'm going to be talking about approaching the chords and the arpeggios in this piece quite a bit. If you want the sheet music, there's a link for that underneath the video. It's from my Easy Classical Guitar Volume 1 in preparation for the Volume 2 that'll be coming out soon. So this piece is kind of like a little etude or study, mainly chords and arpeggios. Basically like a texture-based piece. So we'll be talking about how to navigate some of these chords. So the first thing you might want to do is, of course, play the piece slowly and everything like that and get to know it a little bit. But you can practice this piece in a couple of different ways. One thing you can do is practice it in block chords. So if you take each triplet group, so each quarter note beat, and play it as a block chord, etc., etc. That will teach your right hand the spacing of the strings really nicely, and it'll teach your left hand the full chord shapes that you'll need. Now, that's a way of practicing the piece. But now when you actually play the piece, you're going to treat the left hand fingering a little bit differently. It's really good to know those block chords and to practice them as blocks because in terms of the overall muscle memory, it'll teach you those shapes that are needed to play the piece. But the other thing it does is it kind of simplifies the music. Instead of reading note by note, you can read in terms of chords because it's an A minor chord, and then the second bar is an E major chord. The third bar is an E major, E7 chord. Then it goes back to an A minor chord. So it really simplifies instead of hearing all these individual notes, that you're just hearing, oh, it's an A minor chord, oh, it's an E chord. So you can memorize the piece and know it really well without making the reading a big part of the experience. So when you actually play the piece though, and you want to be legato and you want the chords to connect to each other, you have to finger it differently than block chords. So when you're actually playing the piece, you have to just get whatever note is coming next. So you can start off with your first finger down if you like, and then you can put your second finger down afterwards. There. And then you hold them. Then you release. Get the G sharp. Add the D. Back to A. And when you go back to A, when you're playing it as a block chord, it's kind of an awkward jump to jump the first finger over. But you don't have to do that because there's an intervening bass note. A bass note, and that gives you that split second to move your finger across to the new string. Instead of thinking in block shapes there, we'll think about whatever note is coming next and if we have some time to move that note or not. So during the open string, I'll release my finger and then place it immediately. That's especially important here because the last note is that fourth finger. During that open D string, I want to move my fourth finger to the D. when you're playing it as a block chord, it's like, sorry, when you're playing it as a block chord, you know, you have to get it pretty quick. When you're playing it in the context of the piece, you have that split second to get it. So open D is where I can release the other notes and then get the new ones. Same thing here. And you go through the piece in that fashion. Just making sure that you always are getting the next available note. That will make it just a little bit smoother. You know when you hear people playing and they sound just like a little bit more silky smooth? Well, that's the difference. It's just taking that split second where you're playing one note in order to reposition your other fingers. But like I said, it's really important to practice the block chords as well. So let's just do a quick walkthrough of this piece, and I think that's all I'll really talk about. So the fingering is mainly just P, I, M. There's one spot where you can throw in the A, and I'll talk about that. So just switch on those open strings. Switch after the open string. Especially important here during the D, we switch. And then switch during that open A. Into the C major section. Same thing there. It's like it's nice to just like play the F and then let go of the other notes, and then put your D and your F back on the strings. Same thing there too. It's like your third finger's holding this F here, but during that last note, you can lift that finger. So you can get the G. If you don't do that, it'll be like a little bit choppy there, right? Then we've been playing triplets. So triplet, 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 or one triplet, two triplet, three triplet, four triplet, eighth notes. So you might want to practice that part with a metronome, just like having the quarter note 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can mute the C on the third beat, 1 and 2 and plant, by planting it back on the string on the third beat if you like. You could also let it ring, it's not a big deal. But that's a nice touch. I do a little bit of a rip there. To bring it back to that start. Much to say about the ending. So it's a nice little texture, kind of arpeggio texture piece. There's you could say there's a melody, but it's pretty minimal because, but there's like little musical lines that kind of permeate the arpeggio. You know, sometimes you'll get like, so like, but it's across lots of bars, so you're mainly focused on the texture of the arpeggios and being consistent. It's a great study for the thumb because the thumb's going back and forth across bass strings to upper strings. So you'll want to finger it that way the whole time. You'll be playing the third string with the thumb. P, I, M, P, I, M, P, I, M, P, I, M. So it's a good little study of string accuracy with your thumb and have basic chord shapes, connecting basic chord shapes.